you do get it. It's really strange.
Oh, God, yeah.
You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to The Spectral Zone with host Caz Rooney.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Spectral Zone on Parasearch Radio. I'm Caz Rooney, I'm your host, and tonight I'm being joined by Ian Haywood and Garin from Windy Tree Paranormal. Hi, guys, how are you?
Hi, fine, thanks.
So, I've actually worked with you before, Ian, haven't I?
Yes.
Yeah, 30 East Drive.
That's right, yeah.
Lovely location. But I haven't worked with your whole team.
No.
Do you want to give a shout out to the other members of your team?
Yes.
It's only fair, they're not here.
Yeah, it's only fair. Well, there's myself, obviously, then there's Garin. We've got two Gareths, Gareth B and Gareth W, and Darren as well. So, there's 5 of us in the team, and we gel quite well, and we love going out to do the investigations together, really.
You're an all-male team as well. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, we're very sexist. We don't, we're very, very elite. I don't know why, really. We're open to new members and things like that. So if there are anybody out there that wants to join us, then they're more than welcome, really.
Now, where are you guys based? I know you're in Wales, but
we're based in the South Wales Valleys, sort of just north of Newport and Cardiff, really. So, it's about half hour's journey to either of the two cities. Yeah.
So where do you would you travel all over the UK to go investigating, or do you generally stick to Wales?
Obviously, for us, we do tend to go out on most weekends. So we do try and find little locations around locally. And there are quite a few, obviously there's a lot of history, industrial history and things like that in South Wales that we like to explore. But we have travelled, and we do travel, as you know. We went to East Drive. It's probably the furthest we've been. But, we do get around a bit.
Right, I'm going to pick on you one at a time.
Okay.
That's nice of me, isn't it? Right, we'll pick on Garin first. Right, Garin, what actually got you into the paranormal?
It's strange, really. I was talking, obviously when we got into the team, Ian was saying what was the first experience that I had, and I remember seeing something. I think it was probably a week after my grandmother passed away, and I remember I was really young, so my mother and father were quite reserved and saying don't go, you can't go to the funeral and stuff like this because it's too heartbreaking. And I remember it was probably a week after, and I seen as the sun comes through your window, and you have these little, look a bit like snowflakes, doesn't it? Strange, all the dust and whatever. And I could see kind of a half shape of my grandmother.
Wow.
And I was sat on my bed, and there was even an indentation on my bed of where she was, and I completely lost my mind, and cause I didn't understand what it was. And then I remember I started watching a couple of stuff on TV, different. Ghost hunting, TV shows.
Yeah.
And there was like one group in America which I started watching. I don't know if I'll have to say their names or anything, so I won't. But like I don't know. It's just I started watching it, and it became really profound. Like, and it's that thing of like what does actually happen, and it's always that interesting topic. You know, it's the one answer you can't really.
Yeah.
It's the one question that can't really be answered other than probably, you know, where's the Holy Grail or where's the Ark of the Covenant kind of thing, you know. But it's just that has always interested me, really, is what actually happens. And I think it's like irrefutable, some of the evidence that we've captured, so like intelligent coming back to us that you know, of what actually probably does happen. But yeah, that's really got me into it.
That's amazing. What about you, Ian?
Well, I'm just in it for the money and the fame, mate. I'm really.
Right. Well, at least you're honest about it.
I've made those comments before when people ask me what I'm in for.
Yeah.
For the women.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe you said the money, the fame, and the women before.
Oh yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now I've been interested in the paranormal and occult from a very young age. And when I say occult, I'm not a Satanist, and I'm not into satanic rituals or anything like that. But you know that sort of dark side of life really as well. But I saw things when I was a child that I couldn't explain. Shadows moving and that there was no explanation for, and they were ratified by other people in the house as well. So it does make you wonder, and I've always sort of been interested in the paranormal. And I've probably been investigating on and off now for probably about 15 years.
Yeah. So
there's so much to learn out there, and I think I don't think you'll ever get the answers to everything. And I don't think anybody will become an expert in something either, really. I think, you can't... How can you be an expert in something of the unknown?
Yeah.
I have to agree with you there, because it's like a constant learning curve.
It is, yeah. And I learn things every day, and it's really interesting to read and see how other people do things. Because I think that's what you need to do as an investigator as well, is to progress yourself. Because it's all well and good just standing in a room saying, is there anybody there? And that type of thing. But that's been done for hundreds of years. Why are we still doing it? Why, we need to progress, and we need to move along with the times and to try and get further answers to the questions that we're asking, really.
Do you feel, as a field... Do you feel that scientific research is part of that to take the field forward?
I think, yes, there's a big, it's like anything, it develops, we've cured a lot of diseases that were killing people before. Yeah. And obviously science moves on. Science is a regulated form of study as well, because you test and test and test until you get results and that type of thing, and you need to do that in the paranormal world as well. It's the classic one where at the chime of 12 the white lady appears on the top of the castle ramparts and things like that. There's no point going there at 10 o'clock in the morning if that's going to happen. So you've got to test that theory, and you've got to keep going back and doing the same thing. And using, you do the same thing so long, but if you're not getting results, then you need to do something else. And I think that's what we need to do.
Garin, do you think that, when you're on investigations, obviously we use tech and we use different techniques, but do you think we should really collect data of what we're doing? Like Ian said, consistently doing things over and over to see what happens.
Yeah, I think I agree. Repetition is key as well. And one of the things that personally I found, and even us as a group, is that when we've gone to these different places, like we mentioned before we went live, that it was like a place we quite often go to, which was like an old mining pump house, and when we first went there, it was quite active anyway. But the more we actually went there with our repetition, the even more it's become active, and the fact that we collect this data, we can see then if there's certain patterns that actually happen. Like if certain stuff happens, if we get a name through, we can then go back and see if we've had that name again. So that's the important part about collecting data as well, is the fact you can always go back and retrace what you've done.
I think adding to that as well, I think we don't collect enough data really. We document things using the recorders or video, but the actual the temperatures that you use, if there's any EMF fields and things like that, we don't actually document enough of that, I think, as well.
Well, what I always do, guys, because I'm in the chat room, I'll always say if anybody's got any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay.
So you have your first question from Lee. And you can guess what it's going to be from Lee. He wants to know, why is Ian so handsome?
Why am I so handsome?
Yeah.
Good genes, I think.
I think genes.
It's just like genetics, moisturizer.
Plenty of moisturizer,
yeah. Serious question for you guys. You can answer one at a time. Just jump in. From Ness Watts, and she's asking, what equipment do you find to be the best to use?
I always say that the best you can use is yourself. It's the second to that, then a voice recorder. But going back to using yourself, that if you feel something around you, there's something around you. You can feel cold. You can feel the hairs on your back of your neck going up and things like that. And you've got to trust in what your instincts are, really, because there is a lot of fear. And I think if you go out and do this and you're not scared at any point, then I don't know why you do it, because I think that's what part of the thrill and also the experience of doing it. And your body is the one of the biggest pieces of equipment that you can, well, in my case, one of the biggest pieces of equipment, because I'm quite big. But it's the best thing you can, and it's something you've always got with you as well. So I think that yourself is one of the biggest things, really.
Yeah, I agree. Like as soon as Ian said that, I thought, yeah, that's right, because at the end of the day, like Ian said with the instincts, you naturally know what's going on, and if there's something, your body can tell if there's something that's just not right there. It's quite interesting, especially if people say to you, I'm not frightened of this, then I don't think they're telling you the truth, because I think paranormal investigating, and like ghost hunting, whatever people want to call it, is kind of the unspoken adrenaline thrill. Like people are going about like, jumping off cliffs, roller coasters, base jumping, all this kind of thing, spelunking, whatever it is, cave diving. And I think that like it is literally it is the unspoken adrenaline activity, when you're sat in a pitch black room in an abandoned psychiatric hospital, and you were asking for someone to step in front of you. If your heart doesn't race, and I think there must be something wrong with you, honestly, because it's one of the most terrifying experiences you could have, honestly.
Total adrenaline rush.
It is definitely.
It is. We have another question from Gray Rudd, and he's saying, I would like to ask, reference the occult. How do you know that it would be the occult? How would you know it's the occult?
What I said about the occult earlier is, I think what it is it's more looking into, like witchcraft, more of the natural. What's it called? Can't think of the word in the moment, but it's more the I'm trying to think now. There's one book I used to read a lot of, and it was Arthur C. Clarke's book. It was like ancient mysteries and things like that. And it touched on that, occult is sort of like a religion. It's gone back further than any other religion before, really, from the earliest man. And it's all about the natural entities and things like that. And it's more to it than just. But when you say the occult, everybody straight away thinks about Satanism and all that. But it's more. It's probably the original term for paranormal, I think.
I agree. You got there's even things like I can't think what the term of it is, but it's kind of not natural progression, but there's a thing that I was reading about not long ago, and basically you have occult is mentioned in a lot of things that go back like hundreds of years. Like I think occult is mentioned in like some Charles Dickens books. Bela Lugosi went before he played Dracula. He did a lot of research on the occult. And unfortunately for himself, he got quite tied up in it, which actually messed him up psychologically. But I think as well, it's just to do with like Ian said, it's probably the first kind of term for the phrase paranormal is just occult, because it's a bit like the saying or the word alien. As soon as you say alien, people think it's a little grey man walking around with big black eyes, but alien is just a word that means something that you're not used to.
That's true.
So the fact that alien is used as that, I think it's the same for the word occult. As soon as people hear the word occult, they think, oh, it's devil worship, witchcraft, and stuff like that. But no, it's that could have even been a word that was used hundreds of years ago that meant this is not what we're used to.
Yes, we did. When we used to run public events, we did have one member of the public say that everything that we're doing was part of the occult, because we're technically trying to speak to the dead, which we class it as these days as paranormal, which probably softens it a bit. But it makes you think that are we using the right terms?
That is a fair point. It is a really fair point, because I know some religions would regard paranormal investigators as messing with the occult.
Yeah.
And they have no bones about that. It is the occult to them, and that's fair enough. That's their point of view. But we don't see it that way at all.
No.
But even there, in regards to religions towards the occult, you've got Catholicism, which performs exorcisms, and then which is, if that's not part of kind of an occultist kind of, if that is a religion is saying that it's against what they believe and it's quite occultist, then why do they perform exorcisms? Do you know what I mean? It's and then you have voodoo, which is voodoo is a religion based from, it's African, but it's like in Africa, a lot of Africans actually believe in a Muslim religion because Africa is so close to Egypt, and Egypt practice a Muslim religion. It's actually based off quite a mixture of Muslim and different African tribal religions.
Catholicism in it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, there is part of Catholicism.
A mixture of everything.
And that's quite occultist as well, that the fact that voodoo is about obviously like being able to use dolls to harm or better someone. Yeah. There's passages in voodoo where they kind of try and bring people back from the dead, which leads to kind of zombie stuff in our culture now. And even things like other Catholic religions, which is like Santeria, which is a mixture of Catholic and other Spanish religions, which that's kind of like an occultist kind of form of practice also.
Yeah. So, but we've got another couple of questions in the chat room for you guys. So, I'll go with Ian first. This is Lee again. He's being serious now.
Is he?
Yeah, he's being serious now. So, we'll start with Ian. What's the worst experience you've had?
Worst experience? Well, it depends how you define it as worst. It's a good experience as a paranormal investigator, but it's a worst experience too as an individual.
Yeah.
Well, Lee knows because he was with me. There's two that really come to mind. The first one was one of the first investigations I think we did together.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And it was an old house that was built probably, I don't know, going back 1600s or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of activity in this house. And we went there and we had done a little bit of investigation in the rest of the house and we're getting quite good stuff through. And we were just sat in the attic and there's a stone staircase that sort of spiraled round.
Yeah.
And I was sat next to it. Bearing in mind, this is pitch black. We couldn't see anything at all. It was literally pitch black in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I turned to my right, and leaning over the staircase, or where the staircase was a shadow that was blacker than the black.
Yeah.
It was probably about 2 foot away from me, and it was looking directly at me. And I leapt off the floor, and I was a bit like Usain Bolt to get to the other side of the attic. So yeah, that's one, because that was one of the first ones that we did together, and the other one was in a hospital where I'd actually got physically pulled into a room by my backpack with the equipment in.
Yeah.
Lee was he was in the corridor and he actually heard two people having a conversation in his ear at the same time as I was being dragged into the room.
Mm-hmm.
When we were leaving, because Lee said, "I've got to get out of this place," because we both a little bit on edge at this point.
Yeah, I can understand that.
As we were leaving, a huge stone was thrown down the corridor, and let's just say Lee left a bit quicker than I did, and yeah, that was a bit of a hairy point, really. So yeah, that's the two that stick in my mind.
What about yourself, Garin?
The one I don't know whether my fiance is listening to this, but she may be able to verify it for me. But we was in a castle not far from actually here called Castle Koch, and we was with this one company that basically does like paranormal investigating. Now we've gone to like other historical buildings, and it's more of like a history lesson and stuff. But in this place, it was really good. They kind of left you on your own, do what you want and stuff. So basically, I took quite a large group. I kind of was like, yeah, I follow the leader. I'm going to go into this room and do this investigation. So we took this SB7 spirit box, and so SB7, and so we're going through asking different questions, and we hear this woman's voice coming through, and it's always the same woman's voice saying, "Help, please help me." And then we heard the same voice say, "Run, he's coming, quick."
Wow.
So like clear like that, and all of a sudden, like in this castle, there's this huge, they call it this great hall, or the main hall, and there's this big huge table with this cloth on it, and all of a sudden the table shifted backwards, which we could all hear. Just it creaked backwards, and someone hit me in the back of my knee and literally dropped me to my one knee on the floor. And as I turned around, the tablecloth was leaning up or like floating upwards as if someone had leant underneath the table to push my leg, and then all of a sudden it slowly started to droop down, and then that was incredible. And all of a sudden then in this one room was the strongest smell of pipe smoke or like incense I've ever smelled in my life. And the room next door was a room that was called the Lord Room, and it was basically no women were allowed to go in there whatsoever. Now, women were going into this room and doing a bit of like provoking and stuff beforehand. But the door had swung open previous to this, before we got into this room, someone was telling me. And all of this smoke from nowhere just started to bellow in, but there's no smoking whatsoever on the premises.
Wow.
But yeah, that was quite like a bit of a panicky moment, especially because one of the women who was there, a visitor with this group, actually began to like almost pass out because of the panic that she started to feel. And it was like at the time, like looking back, it was quite funny. But when like obviously you've got the table shifting and you're actually getting physically basically pushed in the back, and then we went in. It was strange because we smelled all this pipe smoke, and then when we was doing the spirit box and stuff afterwards, we was asking different names of who it was, and the child come through, and we said, "This child was it you who pushed Garin in the back of the leg?" And it comes through and says, "Yeah." Well, why did you do this? It was funny.
Wow.
It was funny. So, okay.
Right, we've got another question. It's from Kelly J. Ellis, and she's asking, why the name Windy Tree Paranormal? How did you come to that name?
It's quite a romantic story, actually.
Is it?
It is, yeah. Well, I think, poetic way, not in a...
Yeah.
No, it wasn't you with me this time, Gary. I was looking for a name for the group probably 3 years ago. Yeah. And at the time, I was doing a lot of mountain walking and things. And I was out by myself on one particular mountain that's local. And it was quite misty and foggy. And it was quite eerie. And as I was walking along the path, I just saw this shadow appear in front of me. And as I walked closer, it was a windswept hawthorn bush. And it sort of came to me then. I thought, I'd just call it Windy Tree Paranormal. And it's just because I had that image of that gnarly bush that has just been blown by the wind and just the type you've seen the photos, and they all slanting over and things like that. And that's where it came from, really. So it was just...
That is quite an eerie image, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But it was, just one man on a mountain in the mist, and just...
Wow.
It's very Sleepy Hollow, like,
it is, yeah. Very
We've got another question from Gray. He's asking, when you're on investigations, do you pick up on modern age spirits, and how do you work with them?
It's hard to tell, really, because you know yourself. You don't tend to get their life story when you're getting EVPs. You just get snippets.
That's true.
So there's no really any particular way of telling which era these people are from.
Mm-hmm.
So we just work with what information we get, and we try our best to try and get dates and names and things like that, things that we can look back and see if there are any historical names and times that things have been working. So unless you're not going to get, well, if I do get an EVP that ghost tells me their life story, then I'm sure I'll be a very rich man.
Yeah, we would all love that, wouldn't we?
We would, yeah.
Now, I wanted to talk to you guys a bit about tech.
Yes, yeah.
Because we all use tech when we go out. But this is something that keeps creeping up, something that keeps being said quite a lot is there's people going in, they're taking tech, and they've no clue what they're using it for or what it's meant to be doing or how it works properly. Even. Would you agree with that?
I do, yeah. I think it's important that you know what you're using, and what the results from that piece of tech actually means. I think that the classic one is the K2 meter. There's lots of groups that they were popular on certain TV programs. Everybody went out and bought them. They flooded the market really with K2, and you weren't a paranormal investigator unless you had a K2 strapped to your belt.
I really have to admit, I hate K2s.
I know they're really sensitive, and there is you can, and we have had interactions with them, but obviously they're just basically EMF meters. But the biggest problem I've got with people using K2 meters is the ones that are using it, and they're filming on their mobile phones, because mobile phones play havoc with the K2. All you have to do is, even if you can't have it on flight mode if you're recording and things like that, so you've got to have some interaction with your phone, and your K2 meter goes off. And same REM pods as well. There's REM pods out there that are affected by your mobile phone, and unless you've got it actually switched on, switched off, or left in the car, and you can rule out everything, then is doing with EMF meters as well. There's a range of EMF meters out there, from very sensitive to the cheaper in the market as well. But again, it's what it tells you. We've been told by investigators and psychologists that EMF has an effect on people and it's connected with paranormal activity.
Yeah.
But what does it actually mean? If you get a peak in your EMF meter, are you expecting to see a ghost? Are you expecting to see a spirit in front of you? The tools that you can use, but you've got to know what you're using and know what a peak is, and
what you use it for, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and what does it mean to you? Because if you went out all night on an investigation and all you got was a spike on an EMF meter, would you class that as an eventful night? That's the question, But there is a place for tech, but you have to take into account of what that piece of equipment actually does, what the ranges are, what they mean to you, and again, it goes back to that what we said earlier about doing tests again and again. If you get a spike in the same spot, then okay, is that paranormal or is it something else affecting it? We don't know. There's a lot of ifs and buts about using different bits of equipment, really.
If somebody came to you, right, say you've got someone who's just new in the field.
Yeah.
And they're saying to you, tech, so we've got to have this and we've got to have that. What would you say to them is a bare bones that you need to have equipment-wise?
Probably like EVP kind of, the
voice recorder.
The voice recorder is a pretty good one to have. You do pick up quite a lot of stuff off on voice recorders. That's what I definitely would say to have personally.
It's really it depends on the location as well, because if we're taking there's a place for different bits of kit, but if someone was to come to me and say what they want, it's all about documenting what you're doing. So I think everybody has the video camera with night vision these days. And, it's to document what you can do. So you're looking for things when you're documenting your investigation. So you're looking for movement and things like that. If when you're doing EVPs, just to make sure that you're not contaminating the EVP. You're using the digital voice recorders to try and capture that, and is taking that into account. I don't think you need a lot to go out to become a paranormal investigator. There's, the history has shown us, back in the 60s and 70s when it really started to take off, they didn't have much back then. They had the old tape cassette recorder, and that was about it, really.
Do you remember the old dictaphones?
Yes.
Yeah. And those, people use them as EVP recorders. My mum still actually has mine.
I think it's a real good test as well. Is if you can obtain an old tape dictaphone and a digital voice recorder, and you use the two in sequence when you're actually doing something, it could be quite an interesting experiment, really, when you're out there to see if you are. And we always do it. There's about 2 or 3 of us that are recording the same thing.
But it's funny because, we've recorded stuff on the voice recorders, and for example, we'll one may capture something, and the other one may but then the one that didn't capture anything will capture something, and the one that captured something might not capture anything. So it's quite interesting. That's why I really like the voice recorders.
I think the old tech, as we call it, then the cassette recorders and things like that. Then there's a place for that even today. I think just because you don't really know what digital enhancements of audio and things like that to clean things up can be added into it. So that using the old style tech, I think there is a place for using that as well in the modern day.
Do you feel that tech? I mean, tech obviously keeps evolving, and it keeps. Do you think we're overcomplicating things with tech sometimes?
It depends what you're out to get personally, I think. And again, it goes back to the science and technology things. We wouldn't be having this discussion 20 years ago, would we? We'd be on a landline somewhere, or we'd have to go to a studio somewhere and do it that way. So technology moves on, and there are benefits to using technology. And it's just making sure that you know what that tech is out to do for you as an investigator, and what how to interpret the results, really.
So do you feel that everybody should really, I mean, it's okay having the tech, but you really, really need to learn what you're using it for?
Yeah.
And exactly how it works.
Most of the time it's a visual aid, so that you're in a location. If the REM pod goes off, or whatever you're using, the periscopes and things like that, if they go off, it's a visual aid to say, okay, there's something happening here. Are we getting interaction, or is there something else affecting it? That's what we need to look at. Now, Lee, you probably kill me on this, but the periscopes, they do seem to go through a sequence. So the lights, they start on red and go round to green. Yeah. Once I've seen a periscope actually go back the other way when we've asked for it to do it. Now, all the other times, it doesn't rule out all the other times are saying that there's not a spirit or entity or anything affecting that periscope. But the time that we actually had said, can you make it go back the other way, and it went back the other way, was a more intelligent response to using kit. So, and that's only once that I've sort of seen that happen. But I've seen a periscope go off loads of times, hundreds of times. But it's again, it's what you use and what you interpret from it. Right?
I think it's important for people even listening in now, before they try and buy a piece of equipment. Kind of even just think about the what, why, and how method. Is what am I buying it for, or what am I trying to measure? Why am I doing this, and how do I use a piece of equipment? Because I think those three factors really determine about, especially because some stuff are quite expensive as well. Tech and stuff. So I think people really need to research, like I said, why, where, and how they actually use a piece of equipment.
Well, we have a friend who is very, very techie. He's super techie. I mean, if you ask him a question about a camera, you're getting a half-hour explanation, basically. We're getting all the data about this camera. That's the way he is. Cal Hutchison will say to us, and he said it in the past, he went, if you really know your tech, and if you really know how to use your tech, you will be able to know exactly what you're using that for, exactly how it's working, and you will be able to switch that on and use that completely in the dark. He says that's a test for you. If you can use it completely in the dark, there's a good test.
That's true. And it's all about, I think a good example is if you were to jump in a new car. You've just bought a new car, and you jump in a new car, and you always feel it's different to driving what you're used to. Yeah. And I think you've got to get used to it before you start going 70 miles an hour down a motorway in one. You've got to.
You've got to learn to walk before you can fly.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I suppose. So, but that's it is good. You got to know the ins and outs and know your tech and what you're using it for, and the how, why, and what theory I think goes with everything.
Well, you brought up mobile phones.
Yes.
Now, there's lots of different apps now, ghost apps, and
yeah.
What do you think about them?
I think there's obviously one that is used as a ghost radar and things like that. I think that's one of the most popular ones. And to be honest, I think I'm not a code writer or anything, but there's so many things that you can actually write into apps these days. And I take everything on face value at the moment. We use spirit box apps and things like that, which we use. And again, it's about using those correctly, because there's people going using spirit boxes, and whether they're analog or digital or whatever, they use them in a different way. We've sort of got a rule that if we ask a question, if we don't get a clear, intelligent response within 20 seconds, then we move on.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen people use spirit boxes, and you do get random words out of there, and we all know that. And whether you're using an app or if you're using a spirit SB7 or something along those lines, then you do get random words out of there. But there's no point starting a conversation around those random words, because it's
or even asking the same question to facilitate your answer.
Yes,
because you've had people saying like, what's your name? What's your name? What's your name? And there's constantly nothing comes through until you get a name. It's like, he or she's name is this.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you've asked that question 46 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So inevitably, something's going to eventually come through. And then you may have a whole string of different names. You might have a full class register there. So yeah, it's.
But I think going back to the apps things, it's looking at the popularity of how before you used to purchase something if a lot of people purchased it, but it doesn't apply for apps. I don't think. You need some credible evidence that that is an actual app and how it works. There's queries about even using an EMF meter on a mobile phone, whether or not that is actually picking up EMF, or if it's just some form of code written into the app itself, really.
Well, I mean, we all use tech. CCTV, that is the one thing I think has become really useful for documenting purposes. It's become really useful because you can leave it running and running and running.
Don't get me started on orbs, please.
Oh no, we won't talk about orbs. We won't bring that up.
No, but I agree, because it is something that you've got a multi-camera system. You can cover off quite a few locations at the same time, and it is good for documenting. But it depends how you actually document. We use handhelds. We've used CCTV before, as when we used it in East Drive and things like that.
Yeah.
There's a place. There is a place for tech in the paranormal investigations, and it is useful to us. But it's using it correctly, all of it, really.
Yeah. You have another question in the chat room from Kelly, who's asking, what do you want from your time as an investigator? What's the actual goal for you and your team?
I think it is to document credible evidence that cannot be debunked or proven to be anything other than communication with a spirit or entity. I think that's the ultimate goal, and I think that's the ultimate goal of a lot of people, really. I go along with the things that if you can't debunk it, and it use it like I try to think about like criminal evidence. If it won't stand up in court, then don't present it. And that's what we tried to do. And I think we're trying to find bits and pieces of the jigsaw, but we want the actual. Well, you mentioned Holy Grail earlier, didn't you? It was about that's what we want. That's what we want. We want something that everybody looks at and go, that's it. That's we can all give up now because we found it. That's it.
Yeah. But I think as well, it's like being able to give people an opportunity to like see how things are done as well, because everyone does like certain investigations differently, and I think that it's important to even for people who, like, you're kind of educating people also, for in the sense of there could be people watching our videos or other groups' videos who want to actually get into paranormal investigating, who might not have an idea of doing it. And not only do obviously we want to show them, like, and we want to ourselves want to get, like, the holy grail in quotations, but we want to be able to facilitate a learning experience for people as well, and an educational experience to say that, you know, you can do this too. You can go out and have similar experiences that we can have too.
Yeah, I don't believe you know, that we're doing everything perfectly, because we're not.
No.
You know, it helps people in a way.
There's always something new to learn, isn't there?
There is, and I don't think any one person or any one group of people can actually say that they are doing everything spot on, because nobody has come up with that 100% evidence to this date, really.
We actually have, your teammate is actually sitting in the chat room, and he's Gareth Brennan.
Yes,
and he's turned around and he said, the best bit of kit is the red circle. If it has a red circle, it means it's definitely paranormal.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. If you don't put a red circle on a photo when you post it in an online forum, that is not paranormal. I'm very sorry.
Grey Rudd is asking, if equipment was not available to you, how would you connect with spirit, and what methods would you use? There's a good question.
It goes back to what I said about using yourself, really.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard things without equipment. I've been sat in a room and had someone whisper in my ear, and I've been there alone. You know, there's no one else there. Yeah. And again, you know, it's using. Well, it's the only method you can use, really, isn't it? There's no other way of doing it. And without, you know, none of the people in our group are classed as sensitive or psychic in any way. No. So, you know, we don't channel spirits or anything like that. So, you know, it's if we did have a medium or someone like that with us, then it may be different. You know, different groups have them and they use that method to communicate. But, you know, it goes down to the personal experience side of things and how you feel and what you tune into when you're in the room. Because I'll use an example. What we did a local cinema, and one of the boys was in the cinema by himself, and he's got the recorder, and I was listening to the recorder, and all I heard him say was, "Oh my God, I got chills." So I listened back, and he asked the question, because it used to be a bingo hall at the time, and he said, did you used to play bingo in this building? And then in between him saying that and him saying, "Oh my God, I've got chills," there's an audible yes. And a response to it. But he didn't pick up on that. But obviously something affected him because he had chills straight after it. Yeah. So that's a case of documenting his personal experience using a piece of kit and a piece of tech.
And it's important to do that, isn't it? To document it.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I mean, now, like we were talking about data earlier, to keep notes on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Have a wristwatch on. You know the little digital wristwatches? Have one of them on. You can check the time and just write it down. It's so easy to do. We have another question.
Okay.
Crikey, you lot are popular, aren't you? Ness Watts is asking, have you ever been scared of a place to the point where you've said you will never go back?
There's been a couple of places where I've personally dreaded going back. But if I didn't go back, because I'm after answers and evidence and documenting, you know, paranormal activity, then I don't think I'd be doing a job. I wouldn't be doing this really if I didn't force myself to go back to these places. So there hasn't personally been a place that I haven't gone back to because I've been too scared. I've gone back to places with a lot of anticipation and a lot of dread. And, you know, if at least still on the chat room, you'll be able to say the same.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's places we've gone and we think we don't really want to go there tonight, but you do because that's what you're doing.
What about you, Garin?
it's a strange one, really, because I'm similar in the sense to Ian, is that I think that if I thought to myself, no, if I had a bad experience and thought, no, that's it, I'm never going back, I think it'd be doing a disservice to the group and myself and people who watch our videos as well.
Yeah.
So at the like, touch wood, at the moment, like, nothing is really perked up to say, don't come back here again, but I'm sure it will eventually. But I'm sure something will pop up to say, don't come back. But the same as Ian, really, I think it's about thinking, well, you'd be doing yourself a disservice not to want to go back and want more answers of asking why is this place making me feel this way.
That's a good point. That is a good point. We have a question from Kelly. She said, but if you want the Holy Grail, using yourself isn't really going to cut it with Joe Public because they want to see what's going on, basically. And she said, I find no matter what you present, there's always someone pointing out it's fake. How do you feel if and when that happens to you?
I love a skeptic.
Yeah.
You'll never convince a true skeptic.
No, that's the if you don't ever know what people present unless you're actually there.
Yeah.
And experience it and capture it yourself. And it doesn't matter, what you use or who you are, that you're always going to get that, and you're always going to get the skeptic. But there's I'm open for criticism on a lot of our things, to be honest, because if people criticize what we do, then it'll make me do something different to prove or give them more evidence about that thing.
Yeah.
It's improved, doesn't it, at the end of the day?
It does, yeah. And it's the trouble is, this is quite a big bugbear of mine as well. If you have a difference of opinion with someone on social media, then you get branded a troll, and you normally get blocked or deleted off a group.
Yeah, true.
And I'm not. I'm open for criticism. If people want to rip apart what we do, then at the end of the day, I know what we've done, where we did it, and how we caught it. And otherwise, I wouldn't present it as evidence.
Yeah.
Again, it's that stand up in court theory. If I don't think it's strong enough to stand up, I've gone through EVPs and I thought, oh, there's something there, and then I thought, no, it doesn't actually say it, and I've deleted thousands of files because I don't think that they're of a good enough quality or are credible to present as evidence. And I think I'm quite open to people to say, but at the end of the day, I know if I was in a room and someone whispered in my ear and I felt it and I picked it up on a recorder, I know exactly what happened, and I'll still sleep at night, so it's not a problem.
Well, your teammate Gareth, like I said, he's sitting in the chat room. He said the one thing with Ian and the rest of us is that if we're doing, say, an EVP session and one of us moves or makes a noise while recording, we'll say straight away, so that if something is picked up on the recording, then it's explained straight away.
Yeah, like what Gareth said, and it is right, is that there's a lot of groups that do it, which is pretty good, which is called tagging. Now, for example, if you are like places we've gone to, sometimes we've done EVPs and you can hear birds in the background. Now, Ian will say things like, "Oh, birds in the background." It literally takes a second for him to say it. It's a great thing because we could hear, like, listen back, hear a sound and think, "Oh, that's something," but then literally seconds later you'll hear Ian go, "Birds in the background," which is a great tool for debunking something.
But I think all of the team pick up on things now as well, so that if we don't notice it ourselves, then someone will say that was you moving your feet, and you pick up on things like that. And I think that's a real important point as well, is to make sure that you're open not just to actually asking the questions, but you're open to other things around you, because we have external noises, and I think the biggest one is the 2 a.m. stomach growl.
Or the fart.
Yes.
But it's an important skill to have. Like, obviously, people may not think it doesn't take skill to do paranormal investigating, but the little attributes you have, like things like tagging and remembering to do certain things, it is an important skill to have, and it can be a forgotten skill, But I think that if it's obviously picked up on and it's used, or you can actually remember something that's happened, I think it's a very useful skill and a useful tool to actually have.
We have one last question in the chat room for you.
Okay.
And that is, do you think, from Grey Rod, he's asking, do you think equipment is the way forward when it's not proven? So why buy it?
Well, there's more and more things coming out every day, isn't there? And it's looking at, unless it's used out in the field, then how will it be tried and tested? Yeah. I think one of the things, a few years back, there was a device that came out and it had everything in, it was temperature EMF, it was a REM pod, it was everything, as well as an EVP, and everybody jumped on it. And within a few months, it was deemed to be useless and not any good at all. But until you actually use it out in the field and actually using it again and again, then how do you know it's not going to work? And I think sometimes you've got to take that leap of faith with kit and say, go out and use it. But the trouble is, you put paranormal or ghost in front of anything, and you add the dollar signs on the side of it.
It does tend to be like that, doesn't it?
It's an expensive hobby then, but I think there may be that one thing out there that someone develops, and it's going to give us the answers. But until someone comes up with it and we start using it, and then we don't know. Really.
So we've got to test the equipment as it comes out.
I think, it needs to be tried and tested. But again, it's not getting too involved with that piece of kit again. Yeah. If it does work, it works. But it's finding out what it is actually working as and what you're actually getting from it again.
Yeah. So, what have you guys got going on in the future for the rest of this year? What you've got going on? What's the plan?
We're still plodding on. I think we're quite happy just doing our weekly outings to different locations and things like that. It's a bit difficult in the summer because obviously the late nights, it takes longer to get dark, and that's when we like to go out in the dark. But we're working with a local working men's institute as well, and they're looking to redevelop the building to use it as more of a community centre. So we will be running a few more public events for them via them and things like that to try and we do get some good stuff in there, like we say, we're surrounded by a lot of industrial history and a lot of hardship really as well in the South Wales Valley, so it's we get to go to some interesting places. But I think that's what we're going to do is just keep doing what we're doing and trying to improve on what we're doing and seeing where it takes us, really.
Right, guys, well, I want to end this conversation or this chat we've been having on a bit of a giggle. So,
okay,
right, start with Garin.
Oh, God,
what is the funniest thing that's happened to you when you've been on an investigation?
Let me think now. It's got to be to do with one of the Gareths, hasn't it?
It has.
I think it was literally probably my first investigation when with Windy Tree when I joined the team, and all about like the mad or funny 5 minutes that we have. We was in the Workmen's Institute, and for some reason, Gareth W. He did like he said hello, like very strange. And he just went hello, and all of a sudden he just started a tirade of Mrs. Doubtfire quotes, like, "Oh, hello, dear, how's it going there?" You know, it literally just started about 5 to 10 minutes of, you know, I'm a hip old granny that can beat bop dance till you drop on your make a wicked cup of cocoa. That type of like Mrs. Doubtfire tirades, and it was like the most stupidest thing ever. But it was one of the most funniest things that happened at the time. Of, you know, that and Gareth's uncontrollable flatulence.
Yeah.
And what about you, Ian?
Well, being a larger gentleman, some of the places that we go to, we get in, and some of them are a bit of a tight squeeze. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And we went one place, and I managed to squeeze myself in between the doorway and get into the place, and we did a full probably 2 hours investigation in the building, and then it came to come out, and I found that the entrance was sort of tapered so that it was wider at the beginning and it wasn't at the end, and so there was me stuck there thinking, how am I going to get out of this place? It was all bricked up apart from this very thin doorway, and so I got halfway through, and then I said, I can't remember what it was now, is they were saying, come on, you got to get out, otherwise you're going to be stuck in here and all this. And I said, don't panic me, because I'll just puff up like a puffer fish. And that was it. We all just lost it then, I think. It was just it was one of the things. But I think, you know, we do have a laugh when we go out, and I think you've got to, you can't take it all too seriously. You've got to have a bit of a funny 5 minutes to end things with, really.
Gareth has just said in the chat room they are forgetting the in association line.
No, you can keep that with himself.
Yeah.
I am not promoting his coffee shop. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Sorry, Gareth. Tried. Right. Well, believe it or not, guys, we've been chatting away for an hour here.
Right, that's great.
It's felt like a lifetime.
It's gone so quick.
It's gone so quick.
Thanks for having us anyway, Caz.
You know what? Thank you for coming on. For everybody in the chat room, there's been quite a few actually. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for the questions. Please remember, go and check out Windy Tree Paranormal. They have the group page and they have their like page. Go to both of them. You go live most weekends, don't you?
Yeah, most weekends we're out, either a Saturday or Sunday. It'll be Saturday this weekend, so enjoy us.
Watch out for the lives. They are really good. All that remains for me to say is, please remember that you can catch all the radio shows, all the Parasearch radio shows on SoundCloud, on Podbean. You can find them on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Basically, we're all over the place, really. So you have no excuse for missing any shows. You can catch the shows absolutely anywhere. Go to the YouTube channel and please like it and subscribe to it. And then you're guaranteed you won't miss anything. So all it remains for me to say is say goodnight. Guys, do you want to say goodnight, everyone?
Yeah, good night, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Good night.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.